اینجا یکی از مراکز حساس هسته‌ای جمهوری اسلامی ایران است و این تحرک یعنی پدافند هسته‌ای تعلیق ناپذیر است. اینجا مرکز پدافند هسته‌ای فردو و نیروهای پدافند دائم در حال جابجایی و آرایش نظامی برای مقابله با هر
Senior Iranian commander says the Islamic Republic will strain every nerve to protect its nuclear sites.
The defense situation of Iran's nuclear sites has not undergone any changes because these sites are the national achievements of the Islamic Republic and they must be fully protected.
Ismaili's comments come as Iran released footage of transporting and deploying the Russian S-300 missile defense system for the first time. The video showed the weapons being sent to Fordo nuclear site in central Iran to protect the facility. The S-300 is a series of highly capable, long-range surface-to-air missile complexes which targets aircraft and has the capacity to engage ballistic missiles.
The White House says recent encounters between Iranian vessels and U.S. warships in the Persian Gulf are a serious cause for concern. Earlier this week, the Pentagon confirmed that the U.S. Navy fired warning shots towards Iranian sea vessels that approached two U.S. ships at high speeds in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's defense minister said the Iranian patrol ships were just doing their job. Tensions have increased between Iran and the U.S. in recent days, despite an overall improvement in bilateral relations. Serious differences still remain over a number of issues, including Iran's ballistic missile program, the Syrian conflict, and anti-terrorism efforts in Iraq.
The leader of Iran's Islamic Revolution has warned the nation's adversaries that they will suffer a heavy blow if they attack the Islamic Republic. Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei added Iran's defensive measures will also include retaliation. The leader was meeting with commanders of the Iranian Army's air defense headquarters. Ayatollah Khamenei described Iran's enemies as wicked, deceptive, and opposed to the nation's independence. He said in the face of such enemies that are hell-bent on weakening Iran's defenses, the country's deterrence must be strengthened so much as to dissuade the enemies from even contemplating an attack. Ayatollah Khamenei also referred to the West's furor over Iran acquiring the S-300 defense missile system as an example of animosity toward the Iranian people. The leader said the missile system is defensive, but the U.S. made every effort to prevent Iran from acquiring it.
2 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed in fresh clashes between government forces and pro-Russians in the country's east. The Ukrainian armies also confirmed that 4 more soldiers were also wounded. Kiev accuses the pro-Russians of initiating the latest fighting.
North Korea has hit back at the UN Security Council for condemning its latest test firing of a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Pyongyang's foreign ministry threatened to take, quote, action steps in retaliation for the press statement, which was drafted by the United States and supported by the regime's main ally, China. North Korea accused Washington and what it called its followers on the Security Council of threatening its dignity and right to exist by criticizing its nuclear program. Pyongyang also claimed it has the ability to turn U.S. forces in the Pacific into ashes.
North Korea threatened to aim fire at the lighting equipment used by provocative American and South Korean troops at a truce village inside the demilitarized zone dividing the two Koreas. The North's Korean People's Army accused U.S. and South Korean soldiers of deliberate provocations by aiming their lights at North Korean guard posts at Panmunjom since Friday evening. The KPA said in a statement Saturday that the soldiers' actions have seriously threatened the safety of North Korean troops and disrupted their normal monitoring activities.
The South Korean embassy in China has warned South Koreans to be extra vigilant as concerns mount North Korea could carry out small-scale terror attacks or abductions against South Korean nationals. The embassy says South Koreans should refrain from traveling to the Chinese side of the China-North Korea border. It also advised South Koreans to keep up to date with the latest safety information. North Korean sources have said South Koreans in China and Southeast Asia could be targeted in response to a number of high-profile North Korean defections to South Korea, including the North's deputy ambassador to Britain. The embassy issued a similar warning last month following the mass defection of North Korean restaurant workers from China.
China's Air Force has announced reforms on its defence strategy in an attempt to strengthen its airspace offensive and defensive capabilities. The reform covers a wide area, including the improvement of anti-missile systems, air defence alerting systems, airborne battle tactics, and electronic warfare technology. The country's PLA Air Force spokesperson, Shen Jingke, says China has also developed many advanced surface-to-air missile systems in recent years. These include the HQ-9 and HQ-12 anti-aircraft missile systems, which have already been tested in live ammunition drills.
The images are shocking. A boy, about 10 years old, gun in hand, appearing to execute two men said to be Russian spies. It's the latest propaganda video from the Islamic State. The boy is believed to be from Kazakhstan. He has appeared in previous ISIL videos training with other young boys. And children are being used for more than just propaganda. A bomb strapped to a girl of about 10 exploded in northern Nigeria on Saturday, killing at least 16. Authorities believe Boko Haram was behind the attack. This 14-year-old once carried a machine gun and fought with ISIL. He has since left the group, but would not allow his identity to be revealed. He says children make easy targets for terrorist recruiters.
ISIL prefers young children more than adults because they can convince children and wash their brains.
And once recruited, he says children make obedient soldiers.
If the prince orders a child to slaughter his father, the child will do it without hesitation.
Terrorist groups often show young people in their videos, and in 2014, ISIL presented young boys to a reporter from Vice News. U.S. authorities say Zareen Khan's teenage son was recruited by ISIL and attempted to travel to Syria to fight alongside the group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
We condemn this violence in the strongest possible terms. We condemn the brutal tactics of ISIS and groups like it. And we condemn the brainwashing and recruiting of children through the use of social media and the internet. And we have a message for ISIS, Mr. Baghdadi and his fellow social media recruiters. Leave our children alone.
Fierce clashes between Libyan government forces and ISIL militants have left at least 18 people dead and injured dozens more in the coastal city of Sirte. ISIL captured the port city in June last year. Earlier this month, government forces seized ISIL's Sirte headquarters, but jihadists still control a small area of the city near the sea. Sirte is located 450 kilometres east of Libya's capital, Tripoli. The city has been the site of violent clashes between government forces and ISIL affiliates since May.
Taliban insurgents have overrun a district in the east of Afghanistan, killing and wounding dozens of policemen and soldiers. The governor of Janikhel says security forces have pulled out of the area after heavy fighting. Video obtained by TRT World appears to show Taliban fighters in Janikhel. They claim to have seized weapons and armoured vehicles left behind by retreating government forces. It's the latest gain made by the militants. Government officials admit the Taliban have captured significant territory in the east and north of the country in the last few weeks.
The Paraguayan People's Army has been blamed by authorities for a string of kidnappings, murders and attacks in the remote north of the country. In 2013, it carried out an attack in which 5 people died, its bloodiest to date. 8 soldiers have been killed in Paraguay after their squad was ambushed. The joint military police force was patrolling near the Brazilian border against guerrillas from the Paraguayan People's Army. The leftist rebel group is suspected to have carried out the attack.
Tensions boiled over during Moldova's Independence Day parade as protesters clashed with police in Chisinau. Officers used tear gas to disperse anti-government demonstrators calling for political change. 25 years after declaring independence from the Soviet Union, the country is plagued by corruption, poverty and emigration. This protester says they decided to celebrate in this manner because they don't feel free. People are poor, they leave the country. Those who recently stole $1 billion waste money on military parades in a time of crisis. The disappearance of nearly €1 billion from Moldovan banks has rocked people's faith in politics, and the country has seen 5 different prime ministers in the last year alone.
In Ukraine, around a dozen Roma families have reportedly been forced to flee for their lives after locals in a small village in the region of Odessa turned violent. This amateur footage is said to show a mob destroying dwellings occupied by the Roma. The unrest apparently erupted following the rape and murder of an 8-year-old local girl. They've been here 3 years, and this is what happens. The Roma don't give a damn about the local population who've been living here for 200 years. Our children are bullied at school, people are being hassled in the street, and there are criminal rackets stealing from properties.
Muslim extremists with links to the Islamic State group have staged a jailbreak in the southern Philippines. They set free 23 detainees following a series of similar incidents throughout the country. About 50 heavily armed members of the Maute group raided the local jail in the southern city of Marawi on Mindanao Island. Police said that the group freed 8 of their comrades who were arrested barely a week ago. 15 other detainees held for other serious offences also escaped in the raid. The Maute group has been blamed for several bomb attacks, kidnappings and ransom incidents in the region.
Police in Sumatra, Indonesia, have detained this man for a suspected terror attack during a mass at a Catholic church on Sunday. Witnesses at the St. Joseph Church explained what happened. The priest was reading from the Bible when we heard an explosion, this person said. A guy with his back on fire ran towards the priest. We tried to save the priest. Witnesses said the man had been sitting with the rest of the congregation before suddenly running towards the priest, seen here with a bandage on his arm. It's unclear whether the assailant had any explosives with him at the time. A bomb squad has been sent to the site to investigate whether it was a failed suicide bombing. Police said only the priest and the attacker suffered minor injuries. Indonesia has the world's largest Muslim population and has seen a resurgence in fundamentalism during recent years, inspired in part by Islamic State and Al-Qaeda.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel's domestic popularity has declined, a poll showed on Sunday, with 50% of Germans against her serving a 4th term in office after a federal election year. A series of violent attacks on civilians in July, 2 of which were claimed by Islamic State, have focused attention on Merkel's open-door migrant policy, which allowed hundreds of thousands of migrants from the Middle East, Africa, and elsewhere into Germany last year.
We've been hearing this for a while now. Gun sellers telling us they're seeing many more women coming into their stores as first-time gun buyers. In fact, Rick Journey tells us those women are finding more merchandise geared towards them.
It's not just that gun ownership is up among women, it's that the industry is now very much targeting and marketing to women. Look through the handgun case at Mark's Outdoors and you'll see a more colorful selection, not just this pink 38.
You've seen a huge growth in the number of products that they offer specifically for ladies.
This handbag with built-in holster, another example. While pistol permits are one limited way to track gun ownership, records aren't readily available on gender. The National Shooting Sports Foundation says there are indications gun ownership is indeed jumping among women. Jeremy Hopkins at Mark's Outdoors says he has definitely seen more women shopping for that first-hand gun.
We've seen it double, if not triple, the number of ladies coming in that are wanting to purchase their first firearm, and it's strictly for defense purposes.
And in turn, several firearm instructors tell us they are seeing the same trend. It's not uncommon to see more women than men in their classes.
And you can see, look, traffic literally at a standstill. All this as investigators are now trying to figure out where those loud noises came from. Passengers are being rescreened, we're told, and it's going to be a long and lengthy process. But take a look at this video. Chaos at LAX. Passengers scrambling with bags, running as fast as they can, while hundreds of others evacuated themselves to the tarmac, leaving behind hundreds of unattended bags next to the planes. At the time flights were placed on hold, LAX officials say they shut down the upper departure level and the lower arrival level of the central terminal. They were shut down, and they even cleared Terminal 2 in the midst of all of this. LAX now says those reports of a shooting were loud noises. There was no shooting, they say. There were no injuries. An LAX police spokeswoman says they got 911 calls of an active shooter before 9 o'clock tonight. Again, though, those reports have proven as the result of just loud noises.
A new 4.4 magnitude aftershock with a depth of about 9 kilometers has rattled the region not far from the town of Arcata del Tronto in central Italy, the European Mediterranean Seismological Center reported. The area suffered a deadly earthquake 4 days ago.
Winemakers in France have been hit by drought, hail and a spring frost that's seen production plunge by at least 10%. In the Champagne region, yields have dropped by 32% for the year. One winemaker says he's lost about 65% of his normal yield. This cognac wine producer says, as you can see, it's completely dry, even deep down. You see here that the direct consequences on the wine grapes, burnt by the heat. Some winemakers lost their entire crop just before the 2016 harvest was set to start. Inclement weather has caused problems for many French regions this year. The Bourgogne and Loire areas were amongst the worst affected.
Mosquito-borne Zika virus is spreading at a rapid pace in Southeast Asia, with Singapore reporting a sudden outbreak in recent days that was spread locally.
Singapore has reported 41 new cases of Zika, all of them infected locally. The Singaporean health authorities made the announcement on Sunday, just a day after the city-state confirmed its first case. Those affected were residents of the city, and 36 of them, foreign construction workers, were concentrated in one particular suburban neighbourhood. None of them had recently travelled to Zika-affected areas. While authorities are taking measures to curb the further spread of the virus, they warn of a growing number of cases in nearby countries, including Cambodia, Malaysia and the Philippines. The tropical environment in the region provides a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
South Florida is bracing for possible floods. A system that could become a tropical storm is churning off the coast, threatening the region with several days of heavy rain. It comes as the Miami area is struggling to contain the Zika virus, spread by local mosquitoes, which can breed in just a bottle cap of water.
Sunbathers flocked to Miami Beach on Sunday to soak in the sun before the storms roll in. The ocean winds are expected to bring in several days of rain, including heavy downpours. Right now, the main concern at the shore is the strong rip current. On land, health officials want to make sure pooling water from possible floods doesn't turn into a widespread breeding ground for mosquitoes carrying the Zika virus. Property owners face a $1,000 fine for not getting rid of pools of standing water. In Florida, 42 people have contracted the Zika virus from local mosquitoes. 38 of those cases are right here in Miami-Dade County.
One woman was on her balcony recording video of the hail falling in her Friendship neighborhood. All of a sudden, she sees a tree come down and captures it all on tape.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Holy cow!
And take a look at this unbelievable lightning strike a viewer was able to capture in Murraysville. Over in Bloomfield, we saw more downed and uprooted trees in Osceola Park. And on Streets Run Road, take a look at this flooding. You can see just how high the water was rising by looking at the water covering the headlights of cars. These images just incredible.
The Indian government has deployed rescue teams to the country's northeastern states where heavy monsoon rains have caused a humanitarian crisis. The flooding has forced over 200,000 people into relief camps. The devastating floods have also claimed the lives of over 300 people.